Hello, everybody. Chris Hughes coming to you from CarolinaPreps.com. Made the announcement yesterday that after an absence, stepping away from running the website, being a part of the Carolina Preps family, that I would be coming back. Very emotional decision for me to do so. It was hard to step away. It was extremely hard to come back. But I felt like it was the right thing to do because Carolina Preps is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I started many years ago, and I felt like it was the right thing to do. And now because of the circumstances with the coronavirus and just the stay-at-home orders issued by the governor and so many factors, we're going to bring interviews to you in your home. I can't go out and visit the coaches necessarily, so we're going to bring them here to you. The first guest that I'm going to be bringing to us here is Coach Chris Metzger. He's a very dear friend of mine, known him since the day he moved to North Carolina, head coach at Southern Pines Pinecrest. He is a tremendous friend. I can't wait to get him on the Zoom channel here and momentarily and just find out what he's got to say and really just find out what's made him so successful. Has been a tremendous coach. Leading the Pinecrest Patriots, a program that was at the lowest of lows before he showed up, and has just been tremendous. 100+ victories there. That speaks so high of what he's brought to the table. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Visit our friends at Chatley Boat and Marine in Sanford, North Carolina. A good friend, Robbie Yao. Great family, great supporters of high school football and young people. So go visit our friends at Chatley Boats. We couldn't do it here at Carolina Preps without them. This isn't the biggest financial venture. We don't have the $1 million sponsors, but we're so appreciative of the ones we've got. Love our guys at Chatley Boat. And if you've got a business that you'd like to be a part of Carolina Preps, give us a call. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on Coach Metzger. We'll dial him up, get him on the line, and stay tuned. All right, guys, Chris Hughes coming back to you one more time, CarolinaPreps.com. This is going to be something new that we're trying for the first time. Obviously, after the conclusion of the 2019 season, I had made the announcement that I was going to kind of take a step away from the CarolinaPreps.com business and running things. But, circumstances happen, and I'm back here. The coronavirus has hit us, so of course we're all staying in place at our homes. We're coaching from homes, teaching from our homes. So we're going to do things a little bit different. So with that said, my very first day back on the job, I couldn't think of anyone better to talk to than my good friend, Coach Chris Metzger, who's right here on the screen beside us. Just to really don't have no direction with this interview other than to talk some football and just talk high school football in the state of North Carolina and wherever we may go. So Coach Metzger, thank you for coming on board. First one back in the saddle. You're my first guest and hopefully the first of many.
Honored, blessed. Words can't express personally my appreciation for you, Chris, and what you do. Your ministry for helping high school athletes in high school football. You are the voice of high school football in the state of North Carolina. I don't say that loosely. People respect you. People love you. People appreciate you. So on behalf of Pinecrest High School, we thank you. I want to show the gratitude, and I'm honored and blessed beyond belief to be your first guy and to represent the thousands of young men and men that have represented our program at Pinecrest.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the ministry part because this is more of a ministry for me to not only support and promote our young athletes and coaches, but also the communities, because that's a big driving force for me. Is people forget the bond that high school football has with the local community. If you don't believe it, just go to one of Coach Metzger's games at Pinecrest. I mean, it is a huge deal every week. Just as it is in so many other communities across the state. I'm glad you said ministry, though, because can't leave out our sponsors, our good friends at Chatley Boat and Marine. I know you know them well up there. Talk about some great people. I mentioned earlier that this coronavirus will pass, and everybody's going to want to get out and enjoy the weather, and they know better people than our friends up at Chatley Boats to enjoy the weather.
No doubt about it. Mr. Yao, Robbie and Jeff Yao, what a ministry. And people keep coming back because of what you mentioned, the way they get treated, the way they make people feel. And, they do a great job at their boats. And it's definitely a ministry, no doubt.
Well, Coach, I really didn't have any direction that I wanted to take this meeting other than, just talk a little football. I've known you really well, I guess it's 2007. It was your first year at Pinecrest. I was coaching at Douglasburg. We've had some battles over the years, but, just to see you come from a different state in a program, and I don't even know if struggling is the right word to use, but a program that was just at the lowest depths it probably could have been. And I was just looking at the records, and since your arrival in 07, you've won 7 9+ win seasons at Pinecrest, which is simply amazing. And I just wanted to see, and granted, if you knew what it was that you could kind of put your mark on as to what has helped you become so successful as a coach. What is it you do? I mean, you had great success in Florida. You've been in Maryland. So, I mean, you've been around hundreds of wins as a coach, but what is it you think that's unique to you that has really led to your programs to be so successful?
Well, I think the first thing, specifically our time at Laley and our time here, is that we are playing for an audience of one. And once I gave my life to Christ, my 17-year-old, when her mom was pregnant with her, that changed everything. And the reason I say that, Chris, is because the scoreboard's important, but the scoreboard in the sky and creating champions in the game of life and really trying to get kids to understand the most important victory they can have is a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I say that not to be preachy, but once that happened, it was, we're still going to lift, we're still going to run, but it was truly a ministry. And little by little, we understood the importance of culture, the importance of, having a foundation. And for us, something just popped up on my screen. And I think for us, because Chris Metzger, leaders get way too much credit. My mom and dad instilled a ferocious work ethic in all 6 of us. They instilled tremendous loyalty in all 6 of us. If my brother was out in the street playing a kickball game and something happened, I better hustle out there and come to his aid, if you know what I mean, just a different time. And I think that Pinecrest High School, this community, much like the Laley community, just has really embraced our program, embraced our families, all our assistants, and we have tremendous support. So I think it goes back to work ethic. It goes back to being smart enough to surround yourself with people better than you. Surround yourself with people that have the same vision, and the vision is to create champions in the game of life. But Pinecrest High School is, you mentioned what it was. When we got here in 07, we had a theme, rip off the rearview mirror, and that's all we've done. We didn't want to focus on the past. We wanted to focus on what we were going to do and what we were going to do that day. And, time flies when you're having fun. And literally, my daughter, who's graduating from Carolina, already got a job in Northern Virginia, gave me a plaque when she was in the 3rd grade that says, if you love what you're doing, you've never worked a day in your life. And that really exemplifies the ministry of teaching and coaching. And right now, the biggest challenge I know is just missing those boys. We had class Zoom meetings today with the guys, communicate with them. It's Focus Wednesday. Seeing them, they're sending us videos of them working out every day, creating that accountability piece. But the biggest challenge right now during this is obviously we're praying for everybody that's going through this. We're so appreciative of our healthcare professionals. But, going back to your original question, it comes down to work ethic and just surrounding yourself with good people that believe in the process and believe in work ethic and believe in loyalty and the kind of things our country was built on.
Right. I'm glad you brought up the assistant coach piece and the people aspect, because so much is lost. You're right. People think of you, the head coach, as the guy who's got the answers, but you and I both know that people are really the important parts. You've had some incredible assistant coaches who many have gone on to become head coaches in their own right. And so much of what I do is I'm always trying to promote young assistant coaches, trying to get them out there, trying to teach them things that I've got. I've got coaches that ask me lessons, and I tell them it's far more than the X's and O's. There's so much more you need to understand. But if a young coach was to call you today and say, Coach Metzger, I want to become a head coach, I'm trying to do better, what would your advice be to him?
A young coach trying to get better. The most important piece is if you want to be in this for a long time, you got to love those kids. You got to really have a passion, not to see your name elevated, but to see these young men elevated. The man that got me into coaching taught me at a really young age, it's not our, my, it's we and our. So many times when we're blessed with leadership positions, we, my, my. It's a we and our thing, unless something goes wrong. And as a leader, it was my fault, because you're directly responsible for things. I think for a young coach getting, you're never ready. It's kind of like becoming a parent. You're never ready to be up all night with a screaming baby. It's a blessing. You're never ready. And the only way to get ready is to go in there with a real humble heart and a work ethic and understand the big picture. The guy that my mentor, Ron Madrick, said, schools have teams and schools have programs. Everybody's got a team, but a program encompasses every aspect, from those janitors that clean the field house, to those parents working in the concession stand, to the aunts and the uncles in the stands, to the other students. A program is all encompassing. and that has resonated with me. So, you're never ready for the things that come your way. But I think understanding that going in, understanding you don't have all the answers, understanding that you're always learning, sitting in the front row at clinics, taking notes, and just, that's the biggest piece. And surrounding yourself with people that share your vision. You know what I mean? That share your vision, creating champions in the game of life, that understand that, no, we're not shoving Bibles down kids' throats, but, we want them to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's, playing football. It's going to go away. I mean, Sean Pollard's probably getting ready to get drafted. He's going to play in the NFL, but that's not what defines Sean. Those championships at Clemson were great. He loves them. He had a great experience. It's kind of like with his head coach at Clemson. That's not what defines it. So, that answers your question.
Well, that's a great answer, and it's going to kind of lead me something you said. You mentioned that you've got to get in with your children. You got to love the kids. You got to love the players on your team. So much. From my aspect of a Carolina Preps and the media, you're always promoting the big time players, the athletes. But you and I both know, because you and I are both those same kind of guys. Not every guy on a team is a star guy that's going to play. Very few guys are going to be the ones with their names in the paper. How do you, I'm as a parent, my philosophy is not to be my kid's best friend. I'm preparing them for life after they move out of my house. And I think so much of that can translate as well to coaching these young men that, sure, you want them to have a good experience, you want them to contribute, but I think you've got to also understand, what defines them and help, usher them on into adulthood to make good decisions and to do good things as a citizen.
I don't think there's any doubt about the way our program is built is everybody has to accept the role. I think communication, it's one of the 7 C's, the John Gordon book. Communicating with young men what their role is, where they're at, is really important. And I think during the off season and in season, our staff does a great job of making sure everybody knows their value, and making sure that we're consistent with the way things happen. When someone needs a reminder, Chris Hughes is the best player in our program. Well, if he does his reminder is the same as the young man that maybe isn't the starter. Getting kids to understand we're creating champions in a game of life. I mean, we were blessed. We were at 189 kids in our program this year. We're very proud of the fact, I think, that us and maybe Cardinal Gibbons have the 2 biggest programs in the state. We have a freshman team, a JV, and a varsity team. So getting kids to work with one another, I think our kids, are loved B, they're learning valuable lessons on work ethic and togetherness. And, they don't see shape, size, or color. And in the real world, that's how it's going to be. So I think the kids see that. And because there's such an emphasis on being successful, we don't talk about win, win, win. We got to be successful. I mean, if we're out there doing competition, how are you going to be successful? I'm doing a tug of war against Chris Hughes, who's bigger, faster, and stronger than me. How am I going to be successful? But I better dig in a little deeper. I better show some grit. And I think that in and of itself, Chris, has really kept our numbers up, because kids know they're going to be valued. They're going to be loved. They're going to be treated. You mentioned this, as if they're our sons. We've got coaches that, excuse me, that have small children.
Nice cold sun drop.
No, I need some of this, but I think that's the biggest piece, is our kids know they're valued and loved. And we have 4 pillars: love, effort, focus, and trust. And the kids know they're loved. That doesn't mean they like us every day, but they know we love them.
Absolutely. One thing that's always impressed me about your program, some people may or may not know my background, but I'm medically retired from the Army, injured my back jumping out of airplanes, worked with the Special Operations Unit. There is a huge military contingent of people that live in your neighborhood. And one thing that I've always been impressed is you always seem to bring former retired military guys, special forces guy. There always seems to be just a little bit of a military connection to your team. Obviously, it's a big military community. But tell us how you try to incorporate some of the values from our armed forces just into your players.
Well, we are so blessed to be in this community, and we're so thankful for our armed forces. We have a lot of players whose mothers and fathers have served this great country. And what we've done is we're going to utilize, we're going to take advantage of the resources we have. So we're constantly having guest speakers come in, and these are smart individuals. So they're going to give a 10, 15-minute snippet message about a specific theme. And one of the themes that resonates constantly, and they don't divulge too much information, is when we've had some pretty high-level military guys. And I'm not talking about the ones that go around flexing and saying, beating their chest. I mean, these are guys that have been the tip of the spear. And they talk about how they've been able to accomplish such great things. It's their training, but it's also the love they have for one another. When I look across there and I see my brother Chris pushing himself and living by our 4 pillars and really serving others and doing what he's supposed to do, I'm going to push myself a little bit harder. There's that degree of accountability. And I think that the biggest thing we've gained is that, and these guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, if they fumble the ball, it's not defense come out, it's somebody loses a life.
Yes. And
so our guys have really been exposed to some amazing things. And then a local guy in our community that runs the local F3 Faith Family Fitness organization, it's a nationwide organization, he brought in Kevin Elko a few years ago. Kevin Elko, if you've heard of him, is like Nick Saban's go-to guy. I mean, he's been everywhere, and he came in and talked to our kids for an hour and 37 minutes. But obviously, he's the best of the best. He speaks at every level. And I mentioned Dr. Elko, not only because he's nationally known and he's the best, but he talked to our kids about things that are going to last a lifetime. Not, about motivations like lotion, it rubs off. Being inspired. And our kids, they pay attention to that because they're exposed to these speakers, whether it's military or inspirational speaker. And then we have them, raise their hands and, so we want the speaker to know we appreciate them. So we go right, all right, what'd you learn from the speaker? Hey guys at Boom, hey Chris Hughes, what'd you learn from the speaker? Hey Jeff Chapman, what'd you get from it? And the guys know we're going to do this. So it's a win-win for everybody because those speakers leave knowing they're appreciated. And our kids, we let them know, hey man, no other team in the country has Dr. Kevin Elko here. Another team in the country has Aaron Landry here. No other team in the country has General Odiero, who's retired general here speaking to them. So not only are you blessed and fortunate, but let's take advantage of it. So I think the military has been huge for us. And, you've got men that know what it means to be in a program, be in a team that's successful.
All right, I don't want to hold you all day, but I do have a few more questions. Let's get a little bit more football specific.
Yep.
Been in the Naples area, you've been in different parts of the country. Obviously, you know what big time high school football looks like. And I think you're in the most, or I don't want to say the most, but at least one of the most competitive and toughest 4A conferences in North Carolina. Week to week, you got to go against the Scotlands and the Richmonds of the world. And of course, you guys are right there in it as well. Um, where do you rate the football that we have on a Friday night, talent wise, athletic wise, to what you've been exposed to in other parts of the country?
Well, I will tell you this: football is important in the SAC 8 Southeastern Conference. I mean, Jack Britt, storied program. Lumberton, Coach Dees, he's going to get it going. Stephen Roberson, Purnell Sweat, George Smalls, a longtime college head coach, Division One, and then obviously Richard Bailey, Brian Till. I mean, these guys, it's blown my mind. It blew my mind when I moved here. It was Mark Barnes, and it was Chip Williams. That's Richard. It was Paul Hoggard, and it was Mike Castellano. Now it's Brian Till. Hope, when we got here, was Greg Bryant. Now you got George. I mean, Richard Bailey was at Jack Britt. I mean, it is unbelievable the level of coaching, the level of training. Everybody's got their kids in class. Everybody's jumped on the culture, character trained, having, getting, understanding, we're in a conference full of coaches that have the ultimate victory, what they're doing it for. So football in North Carolina it's really, really important. Now, to compare it athletically, Richmond and Scotland remind me of the Miami teams athletically, the Glade Central teams of the early 2000s. Only it's a little bit more rural kids. But, we would take, I was at a school that was all Haitian and Latin American. I mean, unbelievable. We would take them down to the passing tournaments in Miami because I wanted them to see Miami Northwestern, Booker T, Washington. I mean, Glade Central, the best. Richmond, Scotland, Hoke, our conference reminds me a lot of those schools. I mean, Lumberton and Purnell Sweat and Hoke and Scotland and Richmond and Jack Britt. Facilities, support, staffing in the building, community, kids growing up wanting to be like those guys. And I'll be honest with you, Chris, I had no clue when we moved here. We moved here because of some health issues with a family member. Really feel like God called us here. Charlie Sklasky, who's now down at University of Florida, was recruiting down there, knew about the situation, knew we needed to be near Duke and Chapel Hill. So to go back to your original question, I'm partial. I know there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of good football in the state of North Carolina, but I think the SAC 8, top to bottom, is the best conference in the state. And I mean, not only athletically, but from a physical standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, not Chris Metzger. I'm talking about others. We're not too. The preparation that goes into playing is unbelievable.
And even though it was under a different name, I think the conference and we were both a part of it at that time, did something that I don't believe anyone ever did before or will do again in 08 when we had 4 teams from the same conference go to a state championship. Obviously, Douglas Byrd, 71st, Richmond, and Jack Britt. I think that was lightning in a bottle that will never be replicated again. But it goes to show you just how strong and how special that area is.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And, just look to this year, which wasn't a great night for the Patriots, but the atmosphere, the light show at Richmond, the Jumbotron at Scotland, Hoke's getting a Jumbotron. I mean, you're talking about some electric places. And the thing that we respect, and I personally respect so much, is every coach in the SAC 8, not only do they have the ultimate victory, they know football is a tool to help youngsters in the game of life. And the respect that I personally have and we have for those programs is really, Brian Till, this is a funny story. Brian Till, we brought 5 staff members from Laley High School. Brian Till was moving here from Georgia. And we were going to hire him to be our DB coach and our strength conditioning coach, but all we had was a science opening. He's PE science certified. I don't know if he still is. And so Wayne Inman ended up having a PE opening. So I kid Brian now because, I wish I'd have been a better recruiter. because but
One of the
it's
best of the best.
amazing. It's amazing to see a young brother in Christ like him grow into probably one of the top coaches in the state.
And I love how you mentioned that football is a vehicle for other things in life, and for opportunity for young men to go places in life that maybe they wouldn't have been afforded that opportunity elsewhere. But I spent some time in Texas when I was in the military, and the one thing I see there is everybody. A lot of people here on other parts of the country that don't have that football mindset. All they want to do is talk about, oh, well, they're using public dollars to build these big facilities and whatever. But what people don't realize is that academics, athletics, everything in that community thrives off that football, because the administrators have figured it out and have used their brains to say, hey, football is an opportunity not only for our kids, but for our communities to move forward as a business. And that's just what I love, when people really take it serious and use the vehicle for all sorts of good and not just on the field.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I'm very blessed from our time when we coached national teams, USA football. Carl Ebsek is the head coach at Cedar Park in Austin. And what a brother in Christ, but he's got an unbelievable program. They've won a few state championships, been in it. Brad LaPlante recruited a bunch of our players to Rochester Community College up in Minnesota. He's now the head coach at Hutto High School. Mark Soto's at St. We've been very blessed to visit a lot of those schools down there. And ball is ball, but you hit the nail on the head. They've really got some things figured out when it comes to, oh my gosh, why do they need an indoor facility? Well, even though it's a 120-yard indoor football facility, everybody uses it. Everybody wins, and I think that's the biggest thing. 2 years ago was amazing. This is a great story. One of my former players asked me to officiate his wedding. I was blessed, got certified. It wasn't that hard. You just get online, take a class, a level door. Anyways, so I was going to officiate his wedding, and it was the week of the state championship. So I went and visited Highland Park High School the week of the state championship. Dr. Allen, top shelf. I went to Allen High School. I drove around all day. Top shelf. Then I went to Aledo High School. I mean, just top shelf, everything. And I'm not just talking about facilities. I'm talking about young men shaking hands, looking people in the eyes, coaches, understanding it's a fraternity. I mean, it was the week state championship game, and I sat in a meeting and saw the most amazing thing. Dr. Allen, Coach Allen, Randy Allen, had his quarterbacks. He it was like a checkerboard. He'd call out a play, and they'd move it around in the positions. And he said, see that kid there? He's the toughest, best leader I've ever had. His starting quarterback was Jerry Jones's grandson, most humble kid I've ever met. So it's amazing what this game can do for you. To get back to your original question, anybody listening to this is probably like, oh gosh, Metzger, get to the point. Football is the thread that ties communities together. Now, keep in mind, I was blessed to try to play football, basketball, and baseball. I played them in high school and two of them in college for a little bit. But there's no doubt about it what it can do, putting people in the stands. And that doesn't mean we got a great basketball program, got beat the semis, got probably one of the best baseball programs in the state. But football kicks off the school year. And you can do studies, and this isn't a lip service. When you got a successful football team in the fall, your school issues are down, violence, everything else, because everybody's together. And obviously that comes from leadership from the top down. But Texas is pretty special.
Yeah, football sets the tone, and you're right. I mean, there have been academic studies. You can look. There's higher grades. There's less absences. There's less dropouts. There's so many more positive things that happen because, like you said, football kicks off the season. It sets the tone, and the school year just seems to go off without a hitch.
No doubt about it. It's a blessing, and we don't take it lightly. The ministry we've been afforded here at Pinecrest, and we will forever be in debt. Dr. Susan Purser was the superintendent, loved football, loved kids, and Joe County was the principal. And they had they believed in our vision. And a lot of people thought they were crazy, but they believed in it and gave us the opportunity. So forever, obviously, so thankful to the Lord for what he did, but thankful to those two individuals that believed in our blueprint.
Well, absolutely. Well, Coach, I don't have too much more. I've already tied you up for about 30 minutes. I think it's amazing to be able to get some of your time and just learn from you, but also just kind of learn what's made you so successful. But again, I can't state it enough, my appreciation for you and just what you've meant, not only to to our state, but to me personally, on a personal note. So I just want to thank you for coming on here with me today and kind of helping me re-kick off my life into this football ministry, as you said, because that's exactly what it is. And I just can't thank you enough.
Chris, I got to tell you that my fondest memory of you, you're a competitor. Thank you for your service. The day you came and did a preview and brought your daughter, and she was your assistant, and we had 120 sweaty boys in there working out, and she was running the camera and everything else. And I loved you like a brother, respect you, but just to see the father that you are, because, you know, at the end of the day, that's what's going to be about, because our daughters, I'm blessed with two beautiful daughters. You got one. How they think they should be treated is how we treat them. And so it's just, I love you. I appreciate you. So blessed to have you back, and our state appreciates you.
Well, Coach, I reciprocate, love you as well, and everything you've meant to me. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on board with us, and we'll catch you soon. But again, guys, thanks for joining us here on Carolina Preps. This is Zoom meeting for the day. Again, go visit our friends at Chatley Marine and Boat up in Sanford, and come back and join us. We've got a lot more of these meetings scheduled over the next 2 or 3 days, and really until we get back and can do it for real. But for Coach Metzger and everybody in his family and the Pinecrest community, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.